Chapter 8. Post Corda Lapides by Victor Hugo from the book Les Miserables. After having sketched its moral face, it will not prove unprofitable to point out, in a few words, its material configuration. The reader already has some idea of it. The convent of the Petit Picpus Saint-Antoine filled almost the whole of the vast trapezium, which resulted from the intersection of the Rue Polonceau, the Rue Droitmer, the Rue Petit Picpus, and the unused lane, called Rue Amarais on old plans. These four streets surrounded this trapezium like a moat. The convent was composed of several buildings and a garden. The principal building, taken in its entirety, was a juxtaposition of hybrid constructions which, viewed from a bird's-eye view, outlined, with considerable exactness, a gibbet laid flat on the ground. The main arm of the gibbet occupied the whole of the fragment of the Rue Droitmer comprised between the Rue Petit Picpus and the Rue Polonceau. The lesser arm was a lofty, grey, severe grated facade which faced the Rue Petit Picpus. The carriage entrance number 62 marked its extremity. Towards the center of this facade was a low, arched door, whitened with dust and ashes, where the spiders wove their webs, and which was open only for an hour or two on Sundays and on rare occasions, when the coffin of a nun left the convent. This was the public entrance of the church. The elbow of the gibbet was a square hall which was used as the servants' hall, and which the nuns called the buttery. In the main arm were the cells of the mothers, the sisters, and the novices. In the lesser arm lay the kitchens, the refectory, backed up by the cloisters and the church. Between the door number 62 and the corner of the closed Amarais lane was the school, which was not visible from without. The remainder of the trapezium formed the garden, which was much lower than the level of the Rue Polonceau, which caused the walls to be very much higher on the inside than on the outside. The garden, which was slightly arched, had in its center, on the summit of a hillock, a fine pointed and conical fir tree, whence ran, as from the peaked boss of a shield, 4 grand alleys, and ranged by twos in between the branchings of these 8 small ones, so that, if the enclosure had been circular, the geometrical plan of the alleys would have resembled a cross superposed on a wheel. As the alleys all ended in the very irregular walls of the garden, they were of unequal length. They were bordered with currant bushes. At the bottom, an alley of tall poplars ran from the ruins of the old convent, which was at the angle of the Rue Droitmer, to the house of the little convent, which was at the angle of the Amarais lane. In front of the little convent was what was called the little garden. To this whole, let the reader add a courtyard. All sorts of varied angles formed by the interior buildings, prison walls, the long black line of roofs which bordered the other side of the Rue Polonceau for its sole perspective and neighborhood, and he will be able to form for himself a complete image of what the house of the Bernardines of the Petit Picpus was 40 years ago. This holy house had been built on the precise site of a famous tennis ground of the 14th to the 16th century, which was called the tennis ground of the 11,000 devils. All these streets, moreover, were more ancient than Paris. These names, Droitmer and Amarais, are very ancient. The streets which bear them are very much more ancient still. Amarais Lane was called Mogout Lane. The Rue Droitmer was called the Rue des Eglantiers, for God opened flowers before man cut stones.